speech with a 15-second grace period. The time signals will be starting at 5 minutes. 4, 3, 2, 1 minute left, 30 seconds left, 10, 9, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 seconds, please stop. If I'm moving my hands around or yelling you to stop, stop. Remember to have fun and do your best.
So my topic is, should Syria be allowed back into the Arab League?
Okay.
Imagine you're part of a group of friends. You guys hang out, maybe go to the beach, get hot pot, chat on social media. But one day, you realize that one of your friends has been committing murder for fun for the past 12 years. So, not wanting to be murdered yourself, you guys block him on all your social media accounts, ostracize him from the friend group, and never talk to him again. But all of a sudden, he wants to rejoin your group. And some people think it's a good idea. Replace friends with countries. Replace murder with human rights violations. And you get a pretty good picture of the situation Syria has found itself in the present day, with its group of friends, the Arab League. The Arab League was an organization of Arab nations founded in 1953 in order to promote diplomatic sovereignty, free trade, and economic growth. In 2011, however, Syria was ejected from the Arab League due to its refusal to implement the Arab Peace Plan as well as its various human rights violations. However, in 2021, due to mounting diplomatic pressure from Russia as well as gradual acceptance of the Syrian regime by other Arab nations, Syria is now once again considering rejoining the Arab League. So the question is, should Syria be readmitted into the Arab League? And my answer is no for the following 3 reasons. 1, Syria is still under the rule of Bashar al-Assad. 2, Syria is too economically unstable. And 3, Syria did not and still does not want to implement the Arab Peace Plan. Starting with my first point, Syria is still under the control of Bashar al-Assad. Bashar al-Assad has been ruling Syria as its dictator since 2000 and has been responsible for an unending parade of, honestly, an impressively wide array of human rights violations. According to the Human Rights Watch, for instance, Bashar al-Assad has been responsible for the use of biochemical weapons against both insurgents and his own civilians. He has been responsible for the use of military force against protesters, as well as continual oppression of the Kurdish minority in the north of his country. And, according to the Washington Institute, he has also been responsible for providing aid to groups like ISIS in order to continue his regime's support and to continue justifying these inhumane methods. And so, because of this, admission into the Arab League of Syria would be the same as the Arab League applauding these actions and provide him with diplomatic credibility that he otherwise would not have. In short, it would become significantly harder to punish Syria for Assad's actions due to the support that he would now have from the Arab League, which would mean a regression in the fight for human rights for Syrians. Moving on to my second point, Syria is still far too economically unstable. According to the World Bank, over 80% of Syrians live below the international poverty line, do not have basic access to necessities needed to survive, such as housing, healthcare, and food. And this is obviously because of the civil war that has been ravaging the country since 2015. Syria, in its current state, is far too politically divided and far too economically poor and unstable to properly contribute to the Arab League. An organization designed to contribute to its members economically and promote free trade economic growth will not benefit from having this country admitted into its ranks. And thus, Syria has nothing to contribute economically to the Arab League, and thus the Arab League has no reason to admit Syria in, as it will only cause an economic burden with its member states. Lastly, Syria did not refuse Syria refused to implement the Arab peace plan. The Arab peace plan was a plan devised by the Arab League in order to help solve various conflicts in the Arab world, such as in Yemen, Libya, and Algeria. However, according to the Washington Institute, Syria, more specifically Assad, refused to implement the Arab peace plan. And this was the original reason for its rejection in 2011. And years later, Syria has still not approved the Arab peace plan. And because of this, it shows that it is unwilling to work diplomatically with its allies, or with what would become its allies if it were readmitted. Again, the point of the Arab League is to promote free trade, economic growth, and diplomatic sovereignty. This means coordinating the diplomatic efforts of Arab nations in order to help solve affairs of said Arab nations diplomatically, as well as creating a solid sort of foundation for the diplomatic strategy of the Arab world. And this is something that Syria threw a huge wrench in back in 2011 by refusing to go along with the Arab peace plan. Its continual refusal to do so shows that its readmission into the Arab League would constitute a harm by dividing up the diplomatic strategy of its members and continuing to provide internal conflict where there would be none without Syria's readmission. And so to conclude, I strongly oppose Syria's readmission into the Arab League for these three reasons. One, it would lead to a regression in the progress of human rights in Syria. Two, Syria is too economically unstable to actually provide anything to the Arab League. And lastly, Syria has refused to work with its other members diplomatically and would thus provide more trouble than it is worth to the Arab League. Thank you.